So, what I just thought of choosing this particular subject is there are some which is uh, some of those aspects being covered, and some of them that I'm going to cover it from our OEM standpoint. So, to start with, obviously, when we think of AI-driven approach, this is a really an old thread. It is nothing to do with the bots are not new, but the avatars that they're taking shape, forms, and stuff like that, it is becoming much more diversified. The cute little icon that you get to see, it's quite harmful in the real world. The thing that we have been observing all of a sudden from past 3 4 months, surge in bot attacks on enterprises. Earlier, it used to be only with the B2C kind of customers, but we started looking at these bot kind of an attack, even B2B kind of portals, and even for telecom. You think of IT/ITES organization. We see a massive surge in terms of the bot attack. Please understand that these attacks are not like a ransomware or malware attacks. Essentially, it is using the legitimate way of extracting the information, how much ever that it can, using the legitimate way itself. So it's not getting in through a malware, there is no phishing attack. It's very plain and simple that there is a business logic that has been written, and that is where the AI to AI face off happens. In a sense, even the bots are powered with AI. It is a global customer. One of the e-commerce, when they announced a product launch and we launched it, all the products were bought by the bot, but they didn't buy it literally. They just parked it in the shopping cart. And the moment that all the particular requests started surging down, and they started reinstating back. So there was no business that happened, but this is a pure sense of business disruption. Very innovative way of coming out. So I'm not, again, it's just that, I mean, these kind of things are happening in the real ground. And there are a lot many use cases like business disruption, credential guessing, corporate espionage. And I'm sure that you would have heard of the site scraping, where I need to scrape the content for me to either set up a phishing website, or I want to scrape the website to see what exactly that you intend to offer. What has changed in your data sheet? What has changed in your offering and stuff like that. So obviously this is constantly happening, and these are all real. And they are changing their avatar every second, every minute. And even you try to mitigate it, so you need to have a stronger ML with a stronger service, which basically sort of detect it on real time and then start mitigating it. And that is one thing that I wanted to. So where the AI driven, the answer is AI driven protection itself for an AI driven attack. Well, that's something which I wanted to bring that up with a bot protection. So point to be noted on the application layer side. A second thing that at the data layer that we have been observing. The data layer, obviously, because of it might be with reference to the bot attack, or it might be otherwise, until and unless you understand what is your, how exactly the DBAs and the applications are interacting with the user. And you cannot take a policy-based approach in terms of detecting such attacks, which is much more sophisticated in nature. If intended user who's trying to extract the information, you need to adopt ML-driven approach in terms of identifying, scoop out that particular user, and then give a separate treatment. And that is very important for us to sort of adopt machine learning algorithms to even protect the data either through an application or on the database itself. And we have been observing that the conventional policy-based approach is not working. And that is where you need to sort of get into, machine learning-based algorithm, where it baselines not only user to the database communication, but database to the user responses as well. Imagine that I always execute a select star statement, but one time it will give me 10 records, but all of a sudden it start throwing up 100 records. It's an anomaly, because there might be certain configuration changes you would have done, basically because of which I just took a lame example. But what I'm trying to say is you just need to know the two-way traffic. It is not only the user interacting with the database, but database interaction with the user as well. And that is where this particular thing is gaining momentum, adoption of ML in even the data security space. The next piece that I wanted to speak on is on the risk intelligence itself. Now, data security posture management is not new. Obviously, it is relatively from that standpoint, but from past couple of years, that we are making a conscious effort to actually zero in and triangulate these information. What are we trying to do? You have all spoken about and or heard of the external threat intel. I'm sure that you would have subscribed for n number of feeds which is coming in, which gives you blacklisted IP address, URL, hash values, whatever it is. One thing that we observed the major gap is, unfortunately, corporates even don't realize what is their internal intel itself. What is my vulnerability state? Okay, you run a scan everywhere, you know the vulnerability state, but the only thing is you don't know which of those databases or data stores contain sensitive information. Now you zero in some 100 to 10 properly. How many of them contain the users, which is basically excessive privileges? Now from 10, you boil down to 5. Now, the intention of this particular tool is basically to ensure that we triangulate this information and expose that risk for you to take action against it. We have seen a lot of cases in terms of the user rights where you create Ganesh.Prasad on a UAT environment where I, as a developer, created a database schema. I did that. But the same database schema that gets transferred to your production environment, and Ganesh.Prasad travels along with the schema and sits there, and he is not a legitimate user as far as production data is concerned. And these are all valid use cases that we've been observing so far. So the internal intel becomes much more important, and that is a key foundation for any machine learning to work with. And we started emphasizing much on building up this risk intelligence, provide you a risk posture, and give you a sense of what is your appetiteness in terms of absorbing that risk, or what are the controls that you need to put in place, ensuring that that risk is not exposed too much to the outside world. And that's what we have been working towards in terms of the risk intelligence part. Now it comes, obviously, what do we do with this data? I mean, obviously, we have been detecting that we get the intel, we are doing the bot and stuff like that. But at the same time, what you need to do is you need to build up certain level of automation too. This automation is not only to block the user or probably create a coffee for you, but it also in terms of making sure that how do I orchestrate in terms of assembling information across your enterprise and then give you better visibility from a contextual standpoint. What is your asset criticality? What is that? I mean, the application it is supporting. What's the value of that particular asset? All that external information needs to come in terms of doing contextualization. So we brought in orchestration piece internally from a data security and governance standpoint, making sure that you're actually not only taking actions, but you're contextualizing for better visibility and better actions. That's what we intend to do from a so now coming back to obviously many of I'm sure that in this event I cannot imagine any of the session which has not been spoken of quantum. Everyone is speaking one or the other way on the quantum computing. How many of you are aware that it is a real threat in terms of the quantum computing? We have seen examples. We see the newspapers. What's the evolution that is happening in that? It is very happening in a very very faster pace. Why exactly it is like that? It's basically the researcher says that, I mean, obviously it just requires the number of qubits in terms of breaking your encryption algorithm, 2,500 qubits. And in terms of RSA, it is like 4,000 qubits. I think we are roughly around somewhere around 250, 300 kind of a qubits. I mean, that's something which I was made to. Obviously, you guys are better educated. But yes, we are reaching there fast in terms of breaking those with the qubits. Now, assuming in the rate that we are running in, we have only 6 years to actually cover that gap and mitigate those risks. And obviously, you can lay back. There are two things that you can do. You can lay back and say, "Arey, 6 saal hai. I mean, dekh lenge baat." That is one way to look at. That second way to look at, and I'm going to speak why 6 years is not enough, is also something that I'm going to cover it up from that perspective. What is it affecting? It is affecting, obviously, you would have heard of this, harvest now and decrypt later. It is happening as we speak today. People are harvesting cipher text, making sure that they can decrypt it later whenever quantum becomes much more physically available in terms of decryption. And it is happening. So that is something which we see as a larger threat in terms of accumulating that data sets, which is cipher. Today it means nothing, it is gibberish in nature. But over a period of 6 years, probably you will see that that gets siphoned out and deciphered and get a plain text and then start using that information for not so betterment of any enterprise for that matter. And that's what something that we have. Data and a long-term retention. Imagine you're collecting data if you're a PCI DSS, if you are MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, you're supposed to keep it for 8 years. We're talking about 6 years. Now, 8 years data, PCA DSS, 8 years data. Now, you're keeping all these particular data. A longer retention, you're surpassing the data retention more than, the quantum would be much earlier than that. Now, those data needs to be relooked at, and it cannot be neglected in terms of how I store data today in order for me to better take care of it at the end of the retention. And that is becoming a biggest challenge for any customers for that matter. And we have been observing this being an active sort of a conversation with our customers and partners. Obviously, there are a couple of things which you need to take care of as a basic hygiene: misconfigurations. Obviously, someone is siphoning the data. Today, what you can do is who have got excessive privileges, what vulnerability state that it has gotten. Don't think it that I have actually encrypted the data, I'm safe. It is not, because any sort of vulnerability can be encached, and then the ciphertext can be taken out for to be used later. And that is what something that you cannot neglect all these particular things. I'm not going to read out everything, but misconfiguration, poor monitoring controls, and key vault on a tighter controls, and basically making sure that you're collecting all this information as of today. So why 6 years is not enough? I'm not sure how many applications that you've got, how many of them are working with what sort of a key. So first and foremost, you need to get into inventory. You need to test it out. You need to analyze those and make sure that how do you want to switch over. Trust me, none of your application will be so easy to change your algorithms to make sure that you're getting into the quantum algorithms. It is going to take a lot of time in terms of doing it. We still see that there are many older keys being used even in today's application, older database being used in today's application. So this migration is not going to be easy, and we strongly feel that your journey towards a quantum computer should start today, not after probably 5 years. And then you come back and then you start running Ilta. Now, obviously, your project will not be completed within the quantum becomes reality. And that's what something that I wanted to emphasize much on. It's just a food for thought. Just discuss internally inside your organization. Make sure that what exactly the quantum readiness that you have got. How do I actually sort of make that journey starting today? At least you should start doing it from that perspective. And we have been observing, having very direct conversation with it. What is our contribution to it? Why we say that? We are better equipped. Obviously, we were one of those who actually, there is an algorithm called Falcon, which basically been proposed, and it is co-developed along with Thales. So one of those 4 algorithms, I'm not sure how many of you have gone through. NIST has released 4 algorithms. And these 4 algorithms are quantum ready algorithms from an encryption and decryption perspective. Please go through NIST website. Probably I can add that link for your consumption whenever the deck is made available to all of you. They have released 4 algorithms, obviously many more to come. And one of those algorithms being released and co-developed by Thales. And we are better equipped in terms of giving you that footage in terms of how do you start this journey. And obviously, we know the algorithm, the way it is working, all our machine learning algorithms in terms of even embarking on encryption and decryption journey. So with that, where do you start? Obviously, the many tools available. We also launched our own tool. Thales has got a dedicated page for you to start your journey, to conduct a free risk assessment, and then start where do you stand. Obviously, there are simple, basic English questions the moment that you come in, and it will also tell you whether you're intermediate, strong, or whatever. And it will also give you certain suggestions which you can adopt it today, and then make sure that you carry forward from there onwards.